right, good morning, artists. So we should be working on the first half of our final draft. So the last video I went over was the start of my first half. I haven't worked on it again yet because I'm going to be asking for some feedback. So I'm going to do a little switch right now, and I'm going to pretend that I am a student looking for feedback. So as you saw from that speedy little intro, this is student-centered feedback. So basically what I'm looking for you to do is for you to be able to analyze your work. Every assignment that we've had has had a rubric attached to it. So your first draft had a rubric attached, your final first draft, your final draft has that rubric. And just like in class, I like to use the same rubric so you can see how to build up to meeting the criteria. So with this piece, you should be about halfway done with your first draft. If you are not halfway done yet, try to get it done by tomorrow, Friday. That's fine. Post a photo of your assignment. It should be about halfway done like this. And today is what the topic that we had covered was looking at student-centered feedback. So you guys have been working on this project for weeks at this point. You started with your 3 thumbnails. You built up to the first draft. You're working on starting your final draft. You had done a little self-critique sheet last week. So basically, you know your project inside and out. A lot of you have adapted your ideas. Some of you have really jumped in on adding more detail, which is awesome. So what I want you to do today is just take a few minutes to write down 3 different things that you want me to give you feedback on. All right, so you know your work better than anybody because you've created it, which is great. You're the artist. You should have that sense of control and autonomy over your work, which is what you should be feeling. You made this piece, you're putting it out there into the world, so you should feel that ownership. So I'm going to take the role right now of a student, and I'm going to look at my piece, and I'm going to think about the criteria that is listed for that piece. And the 2 main criteria are level of detail and how well your work communicates the quote that you chose. Okay, so if I am going ahead and looking at my rubric, which give me 1 second, I'm just pulling up the rubric now. All right, so in order to get the highest level on the subject related to the quote, the criteria is you're drawing very clearly, and drawing means art piece at this point. You could be doing photography, you could be doing collage, whatever. Your drawing or art piece very clearly matches your chosen quote. So I wrote down, happiness often sneaks in through a door you didn't know you left open. So right now I kind of see my final draft and my first draft. I want to know, I have a couple of questions for my teacher about how well my drawing matches my quote. I'm going to defend if I think it matches my quote, and I'm going to ask for some feedback on that section. Okay, so if I'm looking at my first part of my final draft, I'm going to say my first part of my final draft doesn't really match my quote yet. So I'm going to let you know that I recognize that it doesn't, this piece, the way it's at halfway done, doesn't fully match the quote that I have up here. So I know I still need to do some work to add detail to make it match the quote. So I'm going to just write that down. Okay, I know my work doesn't match my quote yet. So that's just something for looking at the criteria. I know it doesn't match my quote yet. So I'm going to let you know what my plan is for this statement. I plan to complete the bubbles with pictures to better match the quote. Okay, so as I'm writing this feedback down, you are certainly welcome to write it down on paper and just submit a photo of this. And this is going to be due tomorrow, but you want to just log your attendance and watching the video today. The actual comment section of this will be due tomorrow alongside your first part of your final draft. If you want to just write comments, these comments, if you want to write them directly on the Google assignment, some of you have been making separate Google Docs. Don't worry about that so much. You don't have to really worry about making a separate document. You can just put a comment right down on the assignment. and that makes it a little easier. You don't have to make a whole separate document. Okay, so I plan to complete the bubbles with pictures to better match the quote. Perfect. The second thing I want feedback on is the level of detail. So I'm looking at this. I'm looking at my first draft. I know this does not have enough detail yet. So I know I need to add more detail. And in parentheses, I'm going to write bubbles. Okay, so I know I need to add more detail. One thing I might want to ask my teacher, if I'm a student, is what do you think I can do to make my picture? So I have my quote. I want to add the bubbles. I know I need to add the bubbles to make it better. Is there any way, so right here, number one, I'm going to just draw a little arrow down here to say I'm asking my question. You guys can actually only ask 2 questions from me. So you're looking to see what kind of feedback, you're reviewing your work and asking for feedback specifically about what you know about how your work meets the criteria of the rubric. So I know my work doesn't match the quote yet. What else besides the bubbles do you think I could add? You guys should all know this too. Should I change the composition? All right, so those are my 2 questions here. I know I want to add more detail as well to meet that criteria. So the only feedback I would ask for in that sense is maybe how many different ideas should I include? Okay, so that I've already gone above and beyond. I already have 3 questions. That's fine. So this is nice and easy. Basically, I'm just looking to see what kind of feedback. Ask me specific questions about what you want help with. Don't just say, how can I make my piece better? That's not enough. That doesn't show me you're thinking about your artwork on your own. I want you to be able to know where you are at based on the criteria. That shows me you've actually looked at the rubric. So see if you can look at the rubric, look at how much you finished on your first draft, and try to make sure that you get your final draft halfway done. With these questions, you're trying to get some feedback that you want to try to meet all of that criteria. At this point in the year, I know you guys understand the feedback process. We did it all the time in the classroom, so we're just basically continuing that. You're asking for specific help and specific feedback for your work. It can also be specific to materials. If you don't know how to mix paint, or if you are struggling with collage, or if you want some more tips on the toy photography, ask me something specific about how to use the materials that you're using, okay? All right. Do make sure that you just submit the attendance form for this. The actual attachment for this is not going to be due until tomorrow, but try to make sure you do submit the attendance form today. That's it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys are developing your final drafts. I've been really impressed by a lot of you with how you're doing with the first draft and the 3 thumbnails, especially from the 3 thumbnails to the first draft. There's been a huge jump up in the amount of detail you're putting in. A lot of you are just already jumping into your final draft. That's awesome. So you're also welcome to share this with your friends. If you know someone in your class and you want to kind of bounce ideas off of each other, that's fine too. Just like send them a picture of your work and get some feedback from them. The more sources of feedback, the better. And I'm going to try to get you your feedback by next week so we can complete this final draft and move on to the next unit. All right, I hope you guys have a fabulous day. And I miss you. You know, there's nothing like being in the art room. This is the best alternative we can come up with for now, but at some point we're going to get back there and it's going to be great. All right, guys, have a great day.